Inshallah. Good morning, world, wherever you are. Good evening, good afternoon, back to front, and of course in Dubai. My dear friend Phoebe Francis, it's morning for you. Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Graham. It is Monday after the Easter day. The sun is out. It is a bit cloudy, but the weather is good and good to
Good.
be here. Greetings
Kind
to
of
all of
typical
you.
Dubai. Typical Dubai from what you said. It's kind of cloudy a lot in Dubai. It's misty, I think, or hazy rather than cloud formations. But there we go. Having been there for all those years, I have a bit of an idea of what the weather's like in Dubai. Never complain about the weather in Dubai. No, it's always good to be there. And I'm, of course, empathic for all the people who are there at the moment, given what's happening in on the other side of the Gulf of Arabia in Iran. And I hope, as we all do, that there's some resolution peacefully really soon. So there we go. So tell me, and how do we talk? What do we use to talk
I
individually?
think I think yesterday I was just uh, reading a post on Truth Social. Some of you might have heard that. Some of you have read that. I cannot read it here, and that triggered some thoughts on use of words in
Why can't you read it?
Wow, that will be a bit challenging,
Good.
especially in a public environment, which I think will not be appropriate and
Really?
morally right from a individual perspective. So that's something which I feel great
You
discomfort to read it in a public forum.
wow. So you choose not to read it today to us.
Yeah,
And is
no.
this because there are some words in that you don't feel comfortable with?
Yeah, again, it is sometimes I feel it is not on my part to be um, appropriate to say that to anyone.
Yeah. So let's be a little bit more, we'll clarify a little bit more about what we're talking about, if I may. In the dialogue that you're reading, not the dialogue, but the words that you are reading in this post by a certain, shall I say, president of a large country. I'm not being specific, but I think you'll follow along with me. That there was a word in there that we may be familiar with, but we choose not to use, which starts from a particular letter in the alphabet. Am I gently making my point about what the word might be that people are uncomfortable with? So the person who wrote it, the president of a particular country, obviously thought that there was value in using that word. We all know what the word is, I'm sure by now. But of course, there are people who will not be interested in reading what is there as soon as they see that word, because they know the nature of the word being there is to offend people, maybe to make the point a little bit stronger and to indicate the writer's anger or that he is upset. And so he has used this word to indicate that he's not happy. Now, what about, so I respect and absolutely, I don't want to see what's been written. We're not going to talk about that today, but we're talking about the use of words. Is that right?
Yeah, and use of words and how it have impacts and ramifications. And in our case, it is all about conversations from a workplace and work perspective, and how that even in an organizational or family life, how the discourse can turn into confrontation or conflict because of the use of words and because of the words which may be uh, seen as not being respectful. And we
No.
want to explore this from the leadership challenge perspective, as we always do have the conversation on the leadership challenge and the five practices of the leadership challenge by Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner. So, how words can impact what
Sure.
we see in the workplace and workforce perspective.
Yep. Let's just say the choice of words that we use in English, and I'm sure in Hindi and French and any other language, the choice of words is important. And I don't want to make anything more of the particular word that we're referring to a moment ago. That's certainly not what this conversation is about. You're just using that as an example of choosing the right word. I would say this, though, about that particular word. In all the years, 15 years that I was in Dubai, in the Middle East, I never heard that word spoken, said to me. Never. And in the cohorts and groups that I'm involved with, particularly in the broader area of the leadership challenge globally, I've never heard anybody use that word particularly, right? So we could say that it's not a good word to be using in business context, but we do know that there are people who use those words regularly, and even in senior levels, they will use those words or that particular word. But with respect to the words that we use, this is important. Choosing the right word, let's move on from that particular word, but choosing the right word in English is important. Sometimes words in English have subtle differences in what they mean. Sometimes a word can have a negative context when we didn't really mean it to be negative. And, we really do need to be aware, thinking about, and I'll finish that in a moment, but using the right word and being aware of the right words in certain contexts. Now, I think we've mentioned this before, but when I was a child, it goes back a little way, by the way, when I think of that in the business context that I was in Australia all those years ago, I rarely would have heard that word. It's just not. No. Anyway, let's leave it. We're not going to talk about it. We all know what the word is that I'm talking about. But when I was a young child, if I said something that was not pleasant, or if I was rude to someone, if my mother was there, my mother would say, "Think before you speak." Oh, what does that mean? Well, in simple terms, to a 5-year-old boy, perhaps, she would want me to process the range of words that I had in my availability and choose the best word for the context. And certainly to choose a word that wasn't going to offend someone. And there's certain times we can say things that we don't mean to say to someone. And we say them, and then we recognize that that person that we've said it to is reacting to what we've just said. And we might see the reaction on their face. And if we have some understanding of the impact of words, we might then say, "Oh, I'm sorry, no, I didn't mean that." Well, it's too late. You've said it, right? And it's hard to retract that word and the impact of that word and the perhaps damage that it's caused in the relationship because of the choice of words that you've used. This is about semantics, understanding the correct word, the better word perhaps to use than one that immediately might come to mind. So that is, if you think about the word you're going to say, and if you practice thinking about the word. Now, when I say think about the word, this is not a 10-minute process. Let me run through a list of 100 words and decide on the best one to use. No, this is a developed skill that will happen in a split second. I think I'm going to say you're an idiot. Oh, no, I'm not going to say that because he'll be offended. So I will modify that and say, look, I don't think what you've done is appropriate. Now I'll change the way I'm going to say things. I'll do that automatically rather than saying you're an idiot because of what you just did. I don't want to say to anybody that they are an idiot. No way. But sometimes the words, if we're not prepared for this, will come out and cause really quite some damage because the person takes offence. And saying, I didn't mean it, it's too late. You have said it. Right? When someone says, I didn't mean it, what they're really saying is, I have just realised that was the wrong word to use and it's offensive towards you and I should not have said it. Yep, that's right. You shouldn't have said the word, even though you meant it. So tell me more about the impact of words that you have in this situation, really.
I think you touched on an important point. Words are in neutral. They build or erode trust,
Yeah.
like the way in which it is used, the contextuality in which it is being used. And I think I want to bring in um, the first practice of the leadership challenge, modeling the way. Uh, in this process, how am I clarifying my values through my words at that stage? And uh, what is it conveying? Do my words clarify values or confuse values? And the meaning making process on the other side, who is reading it or who is receiving it, uh, creates ripple effect on that process and what is being understood, how it is being understood. So sometimes, as we can see, poor words create fearful situation in a workplace context where
But
psychological safety can be eroded by the words being used in a contextuality.
but
And if as a power holder in that context, if I am not using the values that build trust, we are not modeling the way we want in that workplace.
yeah, now you mentioned two different vehicles for the use of words. One is the spoken word and one is written word. And I hope that when we're writing something, we pay a little bit more attention to the words that we're using to make them effective, right? We're going to think about what we're writing, perhaps as we're writing it, and make sure that the words are appropriate. We've got a little bit more time to think about it. But in a one-on-one conversation, we don't have that time that we might have if we're writing. We're going to just say the words as they come into our head, and we might get it wrong. That's why I say think before you speak. And as I've said, thinking before you speak, it's a pretty momentary thing to do. And when you do this, it doesn't slow the communication down, but it becomes also it's an automatic response. And just to think about the words you're going to use. When I first went to the UAE and I was facilitating a program or I was speaking in public, but mainly facilitating, I was aware, US self-awareness and awareness of others is really important. I was aware when I'm working in a group, maybe there's 15 people in a training session, and as I'm looking at the people and I'm communicating and telling about whatever it was that we're talking about, if I said a word in English that I then noticed almost instantly one person, even one only, I could sense by the look in their eyes that I can see that they're saying, "What is that word? I don't understand it." As soon as that happened, as soon as I saw a little reflection in their eyes that they didn't understand it, but they're trying to work it out, I would use another word which is appropriate in that context. We're blessed with the English language. There's so many words that if we haven't got one word that's particularly right, there's another word that's likely to be appropriate. So I would, in choosing the right word, in this particular case, I needed to choose a word which was understood by the participants. There is no way that I can say, well, that's the word. If you don't understand it, tough. Your problem, buddy. No way that happened. So what I wanted was that people would go away from the program learning what I was talking to them. Because if in a one-on-one or a one-to-a-group situation where I'm communicating and there is a miscommunication of a word that they don't understand, if I don't try and repair that, for the next 5 minutes, they're thinking, now, what does that word does it mean this or it's not 5 minutes, but you know what I mean? They are going to be taking time to think about the word that they didn't understand. So that doesn't help the process that I'm engaged in. So what I'm going to do is to immediately repair, well, that's probably overstating it, but immediately replace that with a word that has the same or similar meaning, and hopefully they'll understand that word. So that was what I was doing on the go. I was aware of what people might be picking up and not. But we've really got to be aware of the choice of the word in an English context where people know the language, where people have been speaking English for many years, and we might say things or set up things in a way that causes offence, causes misunderstanding, and you can't then say, well, I didn't mean to offend him or her, but you did because of the choice of words. So be careful about what you are saying. I've used the word semantic. Understand the impact of the words that you can say in English to another native English speaker. They can take offence because you're not using the words correctly. Now, add onto that the element of people who aren't native speakers, who are having trouble with the language anyway, and we use words they don't understand. The problem is then multiplied further. Choose the right words. Think about what you're saying if you want to get great results. What do you think about that, Vivi?
Yeah, this brought me to see how, like how leaders create climate with conversation. And
Climate. Yeah.
yeah, and if words are wind, leaders are the weather makers, in that space, in that context which they are in. And based on that, being a weather maker with the words in that environment,
Yeah.
it can drive people to thrive, or it can take the opposite, where
Yeah.
people be demotivated and
Yeah.
feeling disconnected.
But also consider this. Let's say as a leader, team leader, I don't know, and I'm talking to a member of my team and I choose words which are not appropriate or which could cause offence. Is this good for the overall process of what's going on? Is this good or not? It's not, isn't it? So the leader himself really needs to understand the power of the words that he's using and not just rattle them off and cause offence. I don't care if he's offended. Yes, you need to be aware of that. And you need to be clear in the words that you're using so that the impact of what you're saying doesn't cut through their emotions and cause difficulties for the entire situation. So think about the word you're saying. Think about not only the words, but of course the way you are expressing those words. And in terms of the leadership challenge, let's just go through some of those points that you were starting to talk about when you indicated their impact with the 5 practices. Huh? What
Yeah.
about yeah?
Yeah. So the other question is from the leadership challenge, practice number 2, whether my words are inspiring a shared vision.
Now the important word there that you used is inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The choice of words that you use is going to impact the inspiration or otherwise. Now we
And
know women barrier particular about the words that they use, particularly in any of the books that are written, the Leadership Challenge, all of the editions. They are particularly careful about the words that they have used to set up our explanation of leadership and the 5 practices and the 2 commitments that go with each of those. So, that's important. Think about the
yeah.
word. So if you're going to
Yeah.
Sorry, but if you're going to inspire people, you're not going to say, well, tomorrow's a better day, so come on, just get out and do the job, and we'll know that by the end of the week, everything's fantastic. Come on, that's not inspiring. Work with me, and I'll change the world. No. Together we'll do no. Right?
Yeah. And I was just going through a word or a sentence like from Dyson, and he has experimented in his process of refining the vacuum cleaners of the modern day world, and there is a phrase which is mentioned like failure is merely discovery, and how he reframed failure, and this is basically inspiring and also helping people or the team with him or her is working is challenging the process so that new innovation happen. And here failure is seen as an opportunity to grow because he is framing it like failure is merely discovery.
Oh, well, what if we're talking about in that same context, if we're talking about a leader coaching an individual, the
Yeah,
choice of words in the coaching environment are particularly important. Otherwise, it's not a coaching situation, it's a beat over the head. This is how you got to do it, right? Follow what I'm saying, do what I do. You think that
yeah,
person change their behaviour if there is such a directive? Not likely. So, and I've said for a long time, I believe you can get people to do anything you want, based on the choice of words, based on what the words that you say. You know, I
yeah,
was lecturing years ago, I don't need to go into the area of the study, but when we're having a break, I would say to the people who were now taking a break, my students, I would say, in 30 minutes, I'm going to be back in this room. And if you want to learn a little bit more about what we've talked about, I'll be really pleased if you could be here by then. Was I telling them to get their butts in here by 30 minutes? No, I was alluding to the learning that's going to continue that is for their benefit. That always got me good results. And also in those days, we had to keep a record of who was there and who wasn't there. And in school days, it was called marking the roll of names. And I would never say that. I would say, I'm going to call out some names, and if that one of those names is familiar to you, please just say hi there, and I'll make a note that you're with us. So I'd reframe that process, because if I said I'm going to mark the roll, which is strange anyway, if someone has had a difficult experience in school, I've just then sent them back to school because of the words that I've used. That's going to perhaps remind them of a difficult situation that they had in their school years. I don't know, but it's a bit, we can reframe things. We can influence people by the words that we use. And I've said you can really influence people to make big decisions. Salespeople, the choice of words for salespeople is so important. And there's been studies done about this and looking at different words that will encourage people to make a decision and when they're buying something, rather than the old sales spin and using one little example that comes to mind. Rather than a salesperson, if someone's looking to buy a new car, rather than saying, how will you feel when you've bought this car? I encourage salespeople to say, how will you feel when you own this car? You understand the subtle difference of that? Buying something,
yeah,
buying something has intrinsically pain about it. I'm buying, it's painful. I'm letting money go. Whereas how do you feel when you own this? Oh, yeah, right. So you see those subtle differences?
yeah. No, it is. Language reveals intention in one way or another.
Oh, sure. And even if we understand in a coaching context, so I'm the leader, and I'm running coaching sessions for the team members once a fortnight or whatever. What I say is important. This gets to motivating people in so many ways that we're going to get better results. I'm not going to hit them over the head with threats or impunity or whatever, but I'm going to talk about how they're going to feel when we've actually hit our targets 2 months ahead of the end of the year. Oh, wow. Yeah, that'll be great. Okay, good. Why don't we go ahead and do that? What do you need to do that? Oh, well, I could do this and I can do that. That sounds really good. Right? Rather than holding them up against, well, not holding them up against the wall, that's putting it too far, but saying, we've got to hit our numbers. So get out there and find the. No, that doesn't inspire people. It doesn't have people wanting to do it. Think of the words you say. Oh my gosh, simple. Vivi.
Yeah, the words they can integrate meaning with the mission which we are in
Oh,
whichever context. And I have heard somewhere Elon Musk says we are going to Mars. Now, in this case, it is not a roadmap, but it is a declaration that reframes the effort,
Sure,
saying that
sure.
we are going to Mars. So how the vision is being laid out, and in this process, what happens is the word is also enabling others to act. How can we reach there?
Yeah, sure. So, just be aware of the importance of the words that we have. You mentioned earlier about creating a safe environment. So how can we create a safe environment? It's around the words that we choose to use as leaders. And the choice of words impacts on whether people will share information with us, whether they'll be open about their feelings, rather than saying to their leader, I'm just struggling a little bit at the moment because of pressures that I'm feeling. And the leader saying, well, just get on with work. That's what you're here for. No, this is basic. But choosing the words is really important. Choosing a strategy in around that case to say, well, is there something I can do to help you? How can we handle this the best way for you? Oh, wow. Because I understand it must be difficult when it's like this. So we're showing empathy, yep, and the choice of words, yep. And this is going to change that person's attitude, hopefully, and be open to suggestions and ideas that the leader will have positively. How about that?
Yeah, I
I
think
think,
a couple of questions which I think leaders can ask as part of this process is, what did I say today that showed I listened? That is one.
no,
Second is, what words did my team echo back to me? And maybe, where was silence the right response from my side? So,
but I'm going to suggest that goes, maybe you meant this anyway, but that's unusual dialogue to be having with a team. But if you had it that way, even had it that way with your team, what results are you going to get? Pretty good, I would suggest. If you're able to say, what words do you think I used today that upset you or caused you offence? I just want to know this. Oh no, nothing, boss. Okay, fine, good. Let's move on.
yeah.
Knowing that if there's any issues that they come up with, they are absolutely able to come talk to me about it at any time. Phoebe, it's been as it always is, a lively session. See the choice of word, a lively session. So the people who are with us today are um, getting some valuable information, and I hope that things day by day settle down for you in Dubai, and that the indications from over the strait and through Iran are not going to be manifest for the wonderful people of the Middle East, not just confining it to Dubai, but to the Middle East. So my very best for a great week ahead, my friend, and we will connect again next week. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course, we will connect next week. And as we close, one thing which I just want to reiterate before we leave is, the words leaders repeat become the organization's rhythm. And in case you have challenges in your organization where you want to help your leaders to be better in what they do, we are here to support you through the Leadership Challenge, Middle East, myself and Graham. We are here in case you need to have a conversations. Reach out to us. Share your thoughts, comments in the comment section.
Very good. Thank you, baby. I'm sure they know. And I'm glad you reminded them. We are here absolutely to help them. Thank you, Phoebe. As I said, have a great week ahead. We'll talk to you
Great,
next.
great week to you too. Thank you.
Bye now.